Mohamed Fahmy was working as an Al Jazeera journalist in Cairo when he and two other colleagues were arrested. He made several court appearances, constantly protesting his innocence. After a trial, regarded by independent observers as flawed and politically motivated, he was jailed for distributing what the court described as false news. After an international outcry, Egyptian President Fattah el-Sisi pardoned him and he was released after more than a year in jail. Since his release, the journalist has been critical of Al Jazeera and Qatar and has launched a multi-million-dollar lawsuit. Now, the New York Times says it received a confidential report from sources it describes as sympathetic to Qatar, aimed at discrediting Mr. Fahmy. It says his legal action is being funded in part by the UAE's US ambassador.
Although Al Jazeera is claiming that, or is saying, arguing that the Canadian courts have no competence or jurisdiction, I wish they would not make that plea. And I hope that they will put before a Canadian court all the evidence they have about Fahmy, and they will show that the guy was not only receiving $250,000 from the ambassador of the Emirates, he was receiving more money.
The New York Times claims that Mr. Fahmy received $250,000 from a senior UAE official to part fund his legal case. The dossier the newspaper received alleges the UAE ambassador in Washington, D.C., an old school friend, helped Mr. Fahmy organise a news conference in 2015 about his lawsuit and arranged for coverage on an Arab news network. The dossier contains further allegations, including a claim that Mr. Fahmy had been previously working as a spy for the Italian government. Mr. Fahmy says the report contains some fabrications.
Putting us in danger.
At a news conference in Washington just last month, Mr. Fahmy again directly criticised Qatar, but denied his action was backed by those currently in dispute with the country.
Have you consulted with any Emirati, Bahraini or Saudi officials in Washington? Also, there are some allegations that you have some connections and good relations with Yusuf Al-Otaiba of United Arab Emirates, the ambassador of United Arab Emirates in Washington. Could you clarify this?
Well, to simply answer your question, no. Thank you.
But he later acknowledged to the New York Times he had indeed received what he called a loan for the lawsuit. He says the dossier given to the Times will now be added to his legal action. Alan Fisher, Al Jazeera, Washington.